there is growing confidence that we may be able to squeeze out another storm before hurricane season is over. What's going on, guys? I'm certified meteorologist Jonathan Kagas. In this video, we are going to talk about the tropics and that growing signal in the models and in the overall environment. So we're going to break that down first. Then we're going to go to the southern plains. We've had a major drought going on here, but some heavy rain is coming in our direction. It will be much needed, but we don't want too much at once to cause some flooding issues. And then we're going to venture to the Mid-Atlantic, where if you've been around that area, you know we have an increasing wildfire problem. They are getting bigger. They are popping up more often as our drought continues to increase, as this is our wildfire season. We're going to tackle all three of these and more over the next few minutes. If you want to stay updated on all things weather before we get into this video, you have to hit subscribe. Please do that. If you happen to find this content helpful, please hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out a lot. We're going to start with a tropical update. If you're interested in the heavy rain in the southern plains or the wildfires, I have the time codes in the description. You can click along, although I do wish you stay around for the entire thing. Also post in the comments where you're tuning in from. Here we go. Tropical update. We are nice and quiet right now. We're not looking at anything in the short term. The signal continues to get stronger in that middle to long range forecast towards the middle and latter part of November. And I'll show you all that over the next few minutes here. But for the early term, we just have a big storm out here that's non-tropical in nature. Just a few clouds out through the main development region, which that part of the season is over. And then just a few stray showers in and around Central America. There's that Central American gyre we often talk about, that semi-permanent area of low pressure that can spark up storms. We're going to be watching that region for potentially something to roll off of South America. So kind of weird, but it's the area that we look for this time of the year. I want to show you the low-level spin first. So we're going to start with the more aggressive model, the GFS. There's a method to my madness for this because we're going to kind of look to see how things have progressed with the other models, the Canadian, the European, and beyond. So we're going to break all that down. But I first just want to show you that the GFS, again, and even with us for the last few weeks, we've been highlighting late October and early November for this potential to happen, and I will revisit that coming up in just a couple of minutes here. But I want to show you this spin first, and you clearly see something going on here. So this is November 14th. We're going to talk at length about what the GFS is doing here, and it's likely consolidating thunderstorms in this low-level vorticity, this low-level spin as we call it, a little too early coming off of the South American coastline right here. But nonetheless, it is aggressive with developing a storm here off the coast of Central America, kind of meandering around the Western Caribbean, and then potentially lifting north towards Jamaica and Cuba, Turks and Caicos, Bahamas. All of this will be way too early for any kind of potential pass or anything like that. I'm showing you this just for kind of the byproduct of what the environment is expected to do, how the model is kind of reacting to that. So the GFS has been the most aggressive model. The European has had very, very small hints, especially in its ensembles, and I'm going to show you those ensembles coming up in just 1 second. If you stick around, if you're still with me, hit that thumbs up button. Here's November 8th again, and notice we have some broad, that counterclockwise flow there. You see that red, and we're looking for kind of that red consolidation, that circle consolidating. Watch what happens as we get deeper into November. Now, this is the 18th, 4 or 5 days later than what the GFS did. So it's a little more plausible to kind of see something materialize in this time frame, closer towards the 17th, 18th, 19th, and we were talking about that in a previous video. Nonetheless, here it is right here. It's broad. It's certainly not as developed as what the GFS just showed, but again, it's something that we see an environmental perturbation, which I will show you in just 1 second. I keep on saying that. And then the model's response. So I wanted to show you the model's response first. We're going to get into kind of the reason why, and then we're going to break down some of the ensembles. So I showed this last week. This is that upper level divergence map here. And when you see the green here, that means we have areas favorable for upward motion. You need air to rise to get thunderstorms to develop. So at the very least, you see that green here. On the right-hand side of your screen is the United States, Central America, South America, the Caribbean, and that's where we're kind of focused on here. So the darker the green here, the bigger the anomaly. So this is the anomaly here. When you see that bright green, it gets your attention. Okay, we have extra forcing coming through the Atlantic Basin to help get thunderstorms going. So at the very least, as we move through that third week of November, we're likely going to see a whole lot of thunderstorms down there. The question is it going to consolidate? I'm going to show you a couple of other models in a second, but first I want to start off with the GFS ensembles, which first started hinting at something aggressively last week. We showed you this again, and we talked about how it was likely being too aggressive. I still think it is being too aggressive, but nonetheless, it does show all these lines is a different member of the ensemble. Different conditions are put in there. We use these, especially in a time like now, to look kind of long range into the future. If we get something showing a similar scenario with different conditions put in, it starts to give you a little more confidence. So notice we have a bunch of these lines here indicating that we have a bunch of GFS members on board with the developing storms somewhere in that time frame, mid to late November. That 14th, again, early on the GFS, but more likely closer to the 18th into the 20th time frame, kind of lifting north. I want to show you the European. Now, this only goes out to the 18th, so we're likely going to see more members start to come on board as we get into that more favorable time towards that 18th, 19th, and 20th again. But nonetheless, you see it right there. Lines on. This is certainly a little more on board than it was just a couple of days ago. And that same scenario kind of lifting to the north and to the northeast, maybe towards Cuba. Now, this is something that does, unfortunately, happen in November. These storms get going in the Western Caribbean, and they do have the tendency to lift north a little bit. Here is the Euro. Again, I want to show you the surface pressure. This is through November 17th. And just to kind of show you, again, that aggressive GFS vorticity run that I showed you, that big red ball just a little bit ago, the European on board. It's not as aggressive. It's certainly not as strong at this point, but it's just getting going. This is early on November 17th, and we do have a little L popping up here. That's the one thing that you do. If the GFS, it's been out to lunch. If you've been watching this channel, we talked at length on some of its biases and some of the things and how it's behaving. It's not done well this season. So when the GFS says something, you take it with a grain of salt. I'm coming on here to tell you that we have more things on board now. We also have the Canadian, and I'm going to bring back Hurricane Idalia. The GFS did kind of identify that Idalia would be there first. Then it kind of went away, and then we had other models come on board. That's kind of similar to what we have going on right here. There's no L showing up, but this is a closed isobar. It's a very broad closed isobar, but it is hinting at some cyclonic vorticity developing in the extreme western Caribbean right off the coast of South America. This is as far as the model goes out, so there's no indication whether it wants to lift north, although you kind of see right here up at the top of your screen, this is a big chunk of high pressure building off the northeast corner, mid-Atlantic of the United States. There's a cold front right here. So just in turn, if anything got going in that time frame, it would have the tendency to kind of be pulled up by that dip in the jet stream. So it's something we're going to watch again. Water temperatures, as we continue to tell you here on this channel, are extremely, extremely warm. So the moral of the story out of all that stuff that I hope was helpful, and if you found it helpful, let me know in the comments. All of this is to say is there's likely going to be some shenanigans going on in the Caribbean into that 17th to 20th time frame. How strong, how it gets its act together still remains to be seen. We remember Invest 97L, it had near perfect conditions, and it was just always so broad that it was never able to tighten up and to become a storm, thankfully. So something we're going to watch. Just wanted to put that on your radar. No pun intended. All right, we are going to move to the south central part of the United States, the southern plains, part of the southeast, because we have some very, very heavy rain coming through over the next couple of days. There's a Pacific connection with this, but it's a weak cold front. We can kind of see the makings of that front kind of draped across the central part of the country. But notice here in the water vapor imagery, the brown represents the drier air. The white and all this colored mess that you see here out in the Pacific represents the atmospheric moisture. You see the motion, though. It's going to work its way across Mexico and then eventually kind of skirt eastern Texas, Louisiana, and then through parts of the Mississippi River Valley, because that front is going to act as that highway. Well, it's going to go there. That moisture is going to ride across the front. Watch what happens here. I mean, we've not seen this much rain in a very, very long time. I'll show you the current drought update. That is what we've been dealing with really for the bulk of the summer, as rain and heat has really dominated this part of the country, this part of the United States. But look at this, a widespread 2 to 4 inches of rain coming from just south of San Antonio to Houston to Corpus Christi. There could be isolated spots 4 to 8 inches. So while we need the rain, I always preach this, we do not want it all at once because we could have a lot of runoff that could lead to flooding. So this may be a little bit too much at once. So we are going to be watching for some flooding issues. We know how easily the areas around Houston flood. So we're watching that closely again for you guys. It's really starting Wednesday afternoon through the weekend. I have this time frame here, the European model, going out to 11 o'clock. And again, painting the picture that really from about Dallas to San Antonio to Brownsville, maybe even to Lake Charles, and then up into the Little Rock area. Some very, very heavy rain on the way. Big chunk of high pressure, by the way, chilling right here. So that is what's going to keep a lot of Florida dry and really help to increase the drought through the western part of the state. You did see Destin could get in on some rain, maybe up to an inch or two. So some beneficial rain coming to parts of the Florida Panhandle. But where this rain is falling, again, no doubt it's needed. We just don't want too much at once. We have that extreme to exceptional drought going on right around Houston through a lot of Mississippi and Louisiana right there. Again, we are all the way up there. That rust color here, that exceptional drought, that's the highest that the United States Department of Agriculture goes on their drought monitor. We have the extreme drought through Austin, San Antonio, Corpus Christi. We're into that severe drought to moderate drought. So we need the rain here. Again, we don't want it all at once. Where we also have a worsening drought is in the Mid-Atlantic. From Charlotte up into Roanoke, the Shenandoah Valley, we have some big-time issues here. Of course, fall is the wildfire season, and of course, unfortunately, we do have a lot of decently big wildfires breaking out into parts of Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, and South Carolina. All those little marks on your screen there represent where we have active fires going. Again, this is updated as of November 8th in the morning, and you see some pretty big fires around. We have fires in Patrick County and around Shenandoah National Park as well. We have some issues, and these unfortunately are not going to get much relief. If you saw the rainfall map, and I can go back and show you that again and just kind of take it out over the next 5 days. Let me just kind of replay this for my friends in the Mid-Atlantic. Again, we know we have some heavy rain coming up along the southeast, but hardly anything. We have a little bit of rain over the next 5 days coming through, but not a lot to really reverse the drought situation or to help out the fire situation. So this is going to be a scenario where if you're watching from North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, where we have these active fires or don't have fires around, you want to make sure you're paying close attention and not burning anything, because things are very dry. The air is very dry. Vegetation is dry, and that is not good news for wildfires. Of course, to spread. Another cold front coming through this weekend is going to bring the drier air back into the Mid-Atlantic region as well. Alrighty, guys, that was a lot. Threw a lot out there. Please let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful. If you found this video helpful, let me know what you want to see on future videos. If this covered anything of your liking. So nonetheless, please do that. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And again, we will catch you next time. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.